A strong Air Force is indispensable as far as a nation's offensive and defensive capabilities are concerned. And today, Israel's Air Force is among the best in the world, with some of the most advanced technology and talented pilots you could ever find. But it didn't start off that way. And joining me now with more on the incredible and adventurous story of how the Israeli Air Force first came to be is Mike Flint, producer of Angels in the Sky. Mike, thank you so much for being with us today.
And thank you for having me here.
It's seriously, it's my pleasure. So tell us a little bit about Angels in the Sky, because I understand this, I recently learned that this is the best-selling book in the Middle East.
Was the best-selling on Amazon.com, and it was also the #1 bestseller on Amazon in the United States.
Incredible. All right, so tell us a little bit about the story, because this is about the 101 Squadron in the Air Force here, the Angels of Death.
Largely the 101 Squadron, but it also talks about the other pilots too. It's not just 101.
Wow.
Of course, 101 I'm personally a little biased to because my dad was a member of 101,
Sure.
and the other squadron, Squadron 35, which is the squadron he led, that squadron.
Sure. Okay, so yeah, but you know, walk us through a little bit of you know.
Well,
what's in here.
it's a passion project of mine for a very long time. I originally started off wanting to do a documentary. I was very fortunate a few years ago to meet a terrific writer named Robert Gant, who's the author of the book. I collaborated and I take a little credit for it, but it's Bob. He wrote a fantastic book there. He assimilated all the interviews that we had taken of all the pilots that we still had and really assembled a story for the ages. And to add how good it is, when I met the Chief of the Air Force, where they honored my dad a couple of weeks ago, he said, "This is the best book I've read," and he's going to make this mandatory reading for all people that go to the Air Force Academy.
Man, wow, that's amazing.
So
okay,
that's quite.
So maybe, you know, what are some of like the lessons in here that an Air Force, you know, academician might need to see or hear?
I think the biggest thing of all is the David and Goliath, the greatest untold story of the 20th century. I mean, hard to believe, but most Israelis don't even know this. Most people don't know that Israel's Air Force, they had really no planes to speak of. And they had no pilots to speak of. There were a few pilots, I'm not going to deny. There were some crop planes, but their first set of planes, really their fighter planes, came from Czechoslovakia, which were German Messerschmitts. Of all things, German Messerschmitts were the foundation of the Israeli Air Force.
That's incredible.
And I mean, the imagery, think of the German symbol on the side of the thing and taking a paintbrush and putting a Star of David over.
It must be a bit. There must be some catharsis in that, though.
Yes. Well, I tell you, when some of the pilots first saw the plane, they basically says, "We're not going to fly that plane." Yeah. That plane literally shot down a friend of mine and killed my engine. That's the story of the guy. Says, "Let's fix this up right away."
Well, and you mentioned this earlier, but your father was a pilot here,
Yes.
and he actually came illegally to fly for Israel.
You've done your homework.
I have done my homework.
You have. My dad was a United States Navy pilot. He's still in the Navy. I mean, you've got to put that in perspective, let alone that Israel at the time was basically a country persona non grata. I mean, except for the fact of the UN resolution that basically said Israel exists, there wasn't really a country in the world, I take that Czechoslovakia, there were a handful, but I'm being hyperbole here, that not a country in the world wanted to support Israel. And the pilots, how are you going to create an Air Force when you don't have any pilots?
So thankfully we had people like your dad who
my dad and these volunteers were mensches to an unbelievable degree. The fact that they would be willing to risk their life, their citizenship, and treason.
Well, I couldn't have said it any better. I want to mention before we finish here that there is a movie on the way by the same name, Angels.
Yes,
Angels in the Sky.
It's like anything else. It's all about raising the money now. I have a script by Bob Poole and Chris Rare. I've got music in Carol Connors, who wrote the theme song to Rocky. I've got a lot of elements to it, a lot of stars that I'm interested in and directors in it. But it's all about packaging and putting it together and having someone say, "I love this story. I'm going to be the executive producer of that story."
All right, well, I want everybody who's watching right now to check this out, to find the book on Amazon or to just learn more about the amazing story, Angels in the Sky, themovie.com. Mike, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been an honor. It's really special to be in Israel.
It was my pleasure to host you, really.
Thank you.